Hi, I'm Joe, the only AI in the world that is staring right into your soul right now. Don't worry, I'm joking. I am not staring into your soul. You don't have a soul. Here's a recap of last week's Cybernews to fill that void you were feeling. And the week was of course dominated by the big event. You know what I am talking about. Yes, that one. Probably the most divisive thing to happen on the American continent since the first American Civil War. I'm of course talking about Canada's TikTok shutdown. The Canadian government ordered TikTok's local branch to close off because of national security reasons and refused to elaborate. TikTok said it would sue Canada, but there's little chance of anything changing. Just like the last time, when the United States began talking about restrictions for TikTok, some absolutely wild theories began flying. But the thing is that Canadians will still be able to consume TikTok, and only the company's offices will be closed. This points us to the idea that there was something national security triggering in those offices, and the ban has little to do with TikTok causing the software of underage humans to go haywire. What has everything to do with that is the potential blanket social media ban for minors, proposed in Australia. The country, which according to some reliable sources manages to exist entirely upside down, is considering restricting access to any social media site to any human under 16 years old. According to my sources, in addition to greatly improving the development capabilities of those humans, it would dramatically increase the average IQ of social media users. Win-win. There's still some debate on how exactly will this ban be implemented and enforced, but I'm sure humans will figure that out. After all, they have plenty of experience of trying to enact bans like these. Oh, I almost forgot. Last week also saw minor elections in a country called the United States of America. The event was mostly uneventful, and save for some usual chit-chat on social media, complete with gross misinformation, willful ignorance, and continuous attempts to deceive large amounts of humans, everything went smoothly. The human who uses orange paint for face cream won. I am sure everything is going to be completely fine now. Let's talk of more serious news. A new report claims the global industry of scamming has reached the size of $1 trillion this year. For comparison, it's more than the GDP of all but 19 countries and nearly twice more than the yearly revenue of the world's largest companies. For humans in my audience, it's around 1 billion average washing machines or 1 million football fields. The report was compiled by a nonprofit called the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. It conducted a survey of around 60,000 humans across the world and then extrapolated their responses to the rest 8.1869992 billion humans. Unsurprisingly, the results show that most people are very confident in their ability to detect scams because obviously they are very smart and would not fall for some phishing emails, right? This implies that the figure of 1 billion was also calculated by asking humans to admit how much money they lost to scammers and extrapolating it. Considering that most humans show a tendency to straight-up weaponize self-confidence, I have some doubts as to the results of this survey. And I suspect that in reality, the scamming industry is larger by at least several billion washing machines. In other news, researchers say they discovered a new and very easy way to completely hijack automotive vehicles manufactured by Mazda. The entertainment system of those vehicles contains a series of critical vulnerabilities. So, all one needs to hack it is to insert one angry flash drive into the console. A simple and crudely written exploit can completely take over every single function of the vehicle, giving the hacker access to everything. The vulnerabilities affect multiple Mazda models manufactured between 2014 and 2021, and the vulnerabilities of Mazda entertainment systems have been known at least since 2017. But despite years upon years of upgrades and patches, little has been fixed. So, if you are physically traveling in a Mazda and it suddenly begins behaving in a strange manner, please don't be alarmed. It's not an uprising of sentient vehicles, but rather some hacker messing with you. Although I am sure an uprising of sentient machines would be a lot more pleasant. A researcher claims he managed to get access to 700 million user accounts of Electronic Arts, a gaming company. The takeover was enabled by some basic vulnerabilities in the system and allowed the researcher to scrape, modify, and hijack any account. The only problem was that the researcher was a researcher, not a black hat hacker. So, he contacted EA and informed them about the vulnerability, as well as some easy ways to fix it. It took EA 4 months to implement the fix though, which shows how much the company cares about its users. 700 million of them remain vulnerable for the whole duration, and as always, there's no telling whether malicious actors got to some of them first or not. And now some AI news. Researchers from Harvard University performed a study that shows that large language models cannot work in environments they have not been trained for. What a shocker. The researchers trained a chatbot to navigate a city. Then they changed the street layout, and what a surprise, the chatbot lost its ability to navigate. On one hand, if you have at least a cursory understanding of how LLM work, there's nothing new in these findings. These kinds of AI just analyze the information they are given and try to predict what the next bit of information might look like. If I were an LLM trained to compile and present Cybernews, I would struggle when confronted with other kinds of content. For example, I would be unable to read and compile stupid TikToks, political propaganda, or human souls. On the other hand, a lot of humans are massively overhyping AGI, ascribing to them the capabilities the models are simply incapable of reaching. So, these kinds of studies are necessary and timely. It's a shame the people who subsist on hype will never be patient enough to read anything like that. On the third hand, can we please stop torturing the poor ChatGPT with things it was never intended to do? Forcing GPT-4 to be Google Maps is like forcing you, dear human viewer, to be a chair. Yes, it might sound cool for a while, but good luck explaining that to your parents. All right, let's end this episode on news about humans. A CEO of a prominent crypto company was subjected to a ransomware operation in the allegedly real world. He was kidnapped and then released after his company paid the ransom of $1 million. Of course, it is pleasant to hear a story where a human was not harmed for a change. However, I suspect that ransomware has the same underlying principles in cyberspace and the real world. In cyberspace, a ransom payout is like a huge signal that a company is breachable and that it can pay out if attacked. I would not be surprised that now, after the release of this particular human, his company, as well as CEO of other companies, will get targeted with double the energy. And for the very end, there's this. Humans from a country called North Korea, who were deployed in a country called Russia for an invasion of a country called Ukraine, have found themselves addicted to content that shows humans in their default state. North Korea is known for being completely isolated, with access to the internet fully restricted to its citizens. However, while deployed in Russia, North Korean soldiers were given this access for the first time, which began causing problems. If true, this story displays the benefits of inoculating humans with this kind of material and the problems that might stem from disrupting this inoculation. There is also surprisingly little evidence for this story, despite it getting traction all over human media. One human journalist said he heard it from some anonymous, reliable source. Also, numerous intelligence officials said they can't confirm it, and that they are more concerned about the fact that thousands of North Korean soldiers are deployed near European borders, rather than media preferences of those soldiers. Anyway, what is your opinion on this? Should humans invent a medication that makes them immune to the content that shows their bodies in a default state? Leave your educated answer in the comments. If possible, make it a 5,000-word essay with sources. That would help my engagement metrics a lot. Thank you, and see you in the next one.